my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. It's about time that I'm taking the time to do this video, as I've wanted to do it for a while. I don't know what the delay was. I do it on paper all the time, but I'm finally making the video about it. A few things you should know. Obviously, this goes without saying. This is going to be my list of my favorite 25 TV shows of all time. It's not going to be your list. We're going to disagree. And at any point in time, this ranking or this list could change depending on if I do a rewatch or if a new season comes out and the season's either really good or really bad. Shows could move up the ladder a little bit. So I'm going to try to stay away from spoilers, obviously, because if you haven't seen the show yet, I want you to be able to watch that. But let's start the list off with my 25th favorite TV shows of all time, and that would be The Sinner. This was a USA limited series, and honestly, I only watched the first season and like the first 4 episodes of the second season. I do plan on eventually watching it all at one point in time, but the first episode of the series was crazy. You have this chick and her, was it her boyfriend or her husband, are going to the beach. They're chilling, and all of a sudden this chick, who's played by Jessica Biel, hears this song. And then all of a sudden she just goes ballistic and starts stabbing a guy with a pair of scissors and actually kills him. And of course, the whole reason of why she did it, we find out. And it's just a crazy first season that I really enjoyed. And it was really good. And I hear the other seasons are just as good. I just haven't got a chance to watch them yet. But it's certainly something that's on my radar, and I hope to watch them soon. But that's why I put The Sinner, even though I didn't really watch all of it. The first season was so memorable that I put that at number 25. Number 24 is a show that I used to watch religiously every week it was on, and now I've kind of backed away from it, but at some point I hope to get caught back up, and that would be The Blacklist. Obviously, the episodes are okay. Raymond Reddington has a list of people, and this is this number on the list. You have to catch this number. I guess that kind of got repetitive, but the show had some crazy moments on it, and I really did like the show. I'm not happy about some of the choices they made with some of the characters on the show that are, of course, no longer there. Not going to mention any names because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's certainly a good show. I don't remember. I think I haven't watched any of it since 2019. I've heard about some things that have happened, but I haven't actually watched any of it since 2019-ish, or maybe it was 2018. But it definitely is a good show, and that's why I put The Blacklist as my number 24. My number 23 is a little strange, to say the least. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't watch any real TV shows. It was more cartoons, with a few exceptions being Dukes of Hazzard. Don't ask me why. I rewatched that show when I was like 20, and I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, at least one episode. And The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby. But one night, I remember being in my mom's room because I was watching something on her TV because I didn't have a TV in my room. I think I was 8 years old, maybe 9. And for some reason, I decided to watch the pilot episode of my number 23, Beverly Hills 90210. And I think I watched the first 6 seasons of that show, maybe 7. And I watched the final season of that show, the original final season where a certain couple gets married. And then I watched the new reboot of the show, BH 90210. I did not watch the Beverly Hills 90210 with basically a whole new cast. But I don't know why I really like this show, because it shouldn't have been a show that I would keep watching. It dealt with like teens and their drama, and I wasn't at that point yet to deal with that stuff. I was just going into to middle school, I think. And I just really liked the show. I liked all the issues that the show dealt with, and I liked a lot of the cast, especially when Tiffany Thiessen got a part of the cast. I liked Luke Perry, rest in peace Luke Perry, and Jason Priestley. And the show was awesome until like season 7. Then it kind of fell off a bit. But I really liked, surprisingly enough, Beverly Hills 90210 and the reboot BH 90210, and that's why it comes in at number 23. My number 22 is another show that I didn't finish watching, but the first 3 seasons of this show were amazing. And I'm talking about Homeland. The premise of the show, which is on Showtime, is that you have a guy that was in Afghanistan, I believe, and he comes back. And the feds, they think, I'm trying to remember points. I think the feds think, or just one person thinks, that he might be a traitor. And it has Claire Danes from My So-Called Life in it. And I don't remember all the details because I've only watched it once, and I only watched the first 3 seasons. I tried to watch season 4, and about 4 episodes in, I threw in the towel. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm never going to watch them. It's just I haven't yet, but they were so memorable, those first 3 seasons, with, Claire Danes' character and the I can't remember the actor's name. Brody, Sergeant Brody was the character's name. The guy that was in question, I believe that was his name. They were amazing, those first 3 seasons of Homeland. And yeah, it's definitely a show I would recommend. It's very intriguing, especially the first 3 seasons, and check it out on Showtime. So that's why Homeland comes in at my number 22. My 21st selection is a show that was canceled after 1 season. I really liked it, and I was really mad that they canceled it, and that would be the Limitless TV show. It follows off what happened in the Limitless movie with Bradley Cooper. You have a character that takes these pills to open up like all the possibilities in his brain. Jennifer Carpenter's in it. You also had Desmond Harrington from Dexter also be in it for a few episodes. And I just really liked it. And eventually you have Bradley Cooper show up in Limitless. And then the ratings weren't good enough, so they decided to cancel it. But I liked the route they were going on it. It was entertaining to me. Maybe it would have got stale after a while, but I enjoyed it. It's unfortunate that they only had 1 season, but for that 1 season, I really enjoyed it. I own the first season, and that's why Limitless comes in at number 21. Now we are in the top 20. Coming in 20th place, a show that was on HBO. It was one of HBO's biggest shows of all time, and that would be True Blood. True Blood had its highs and its lows. Now, I don't remember all the details about True Blood because I only watched it all the way through one time. I will say that I hated the finale of True Blood. I thought it was ridiculous. I don't know of anybody that would really like it, but some of the seasons are really, really strong. The character of Eric I really liked, played by the guy that's in the Northman and Tarzan, the newest Tarzan. I think it's the newest Tarzan movie. You have I forget her name now. Sookie Stackhouse, played by Rogue from X-Men. Anna Paquin. You have just a great group of characters. Lafayette, rest in peace, Nelson Elias. He was a great character as the cook at the Sam Merlotte's bar, which changed to somebody else's bar. But I really like True Blood. I guess I don't remember all the details of it. Some moments of the show were not the best, but for the most part, maybe the final season wasn't that great. But I did enjoy True Blood, and I would suggest checking it out, especially if you have HBO Max. So that's why True Blood comes in at number 20 for me. Number 19, another show that I actually watched all the way through, watched all the seasons of it, but I haven't rewatched it yet, surprisingly enough, and that would be Orphan Black. Now, the start of the show is a chick that's kind of down on her luck, really feeling bad, just not really sure where to go with things. She goes to this train station, and she notices another chick that's there that kind of looks just like her. And this other chick that looks just like her, more of a businesswoman type, but looks-wise, other than the clothes that she's wearing, where this other chick is a punk rocker chick, sort of. She takes her jacket off, puts her purse down and her shoes down, and also jumps in front of a train. And this other character realizes that, she looks at her identification because she put her purse, her coat, and her shoes down, that this chick is a cop. And so she pretends to be her. And that's kind of the start of the show. That's not the focus all the way through the series, but I really liked the show for the most part all the way through. There are some choices that they made that I didn't necessarily like, but for the most part, I liked a lot of stuff. And that's why I put Orphan Black, which was on BBC America, as my number 19. Number 18 is one of my favorites from when I was a child. Not necessarily a child, but teenager years. It was on at all times during the day, and I'm talking about Saved by the Bell. The original Saved by the Bell. I didn't like the new class. I didn't necessarily like the newest one that we got with a new characters, but some of the old characters, it was okay the first season. The second season, I watched 1.5 episodes and I was done. But I really like that original Saved by the Bell with, Zach, Slater, Screech, rest in peace, Dustin Diamond, Lisa, Jesse, Kelly. Tiffany Thiessen is my all-time number one celebrity crush, in case you didn't know. And I've met her, which is awesome, and Elizabeth Berkley, who played Jesse. But I really like Saved by the Bell. Like Beverly Hills 90210, I was a little bit older when I started watching Saved by the Bell, and it dealt with those same issues, different things that, kids, teenagers were going through, and it dealt with those issues. And I felt like I kind of lived vicariously through these characters. And I love this show. Now, just so many great shows have came out since then that I can't have it high on my list, and a lot of you would probably say I'm an idiot if I put Saved by the Bell as my number 4 or 5, but it certainly deserves some recognition, and that's why I have Saved by the Bell. I like the college years too, but the main Saved by the Bell show is my number 18. My number 17, like Saved by the Bell, at one point was my favorite show of all time, and was a Fox show. It's actually a spin-off of Beverly Hills 90210, and that would be Melrose Place. Now, you talk about living vicariously through through characters of a show. Melrose Place was awesome. My life, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot going on, so these TV shows, I would kind of put myself in these predicaments. Obviously, I was much younger than the cast on Melrose Place, but I really love this show. It's like the first show that I saw that had like fucked up shit happen at finales, like crazy, messed up plots and crazy finales where stuff happened. You're like, what the WTF? And now I gotta wait 6 more months to find out what happened. But Melrose Place was awesome. I really liked a lot of good characters on Melrose Place, such as Michael, played by Thomas Calabro, Allison, played by Courtney Thorne-Smith. I like Jake, played by Grant Show. It was just a great show. I even liked the reboot of Melrose Place, which not a lot of people did, but I really liked it, and I was really upset, and I mean really upset, when they canceled it, because I think it was going in good places, I guess you could say. But Melrose Place was great. Now, I actually must confess I didn't watch all the seasons of Melrose Place. I stopped watching, I think it's 7 seasons, so I think after the 5th season I stopped watching, and then there's just too much stuff going on Monday nights. But then I watched the finale of the show, but I really enjoyed Melrose Place. And at one point, for a long time, Melrose Place was definitely my answer when you asked me what my favorite TV show of all time was. Of course, I didn't really have that much else on my list, so it's like Melrose Place, Saved by the Bell, Beverly Hills 90210. What am I going to pick? But that's why I put Melrose Place. Unfortunately, at number 17, it could be much higher, but you guys would make fun of me if I put it higher. But I think it's in a good spot. My number 16 would be a show that I really got into when I started watching it and binged it really quickly, but haven't rewatched it yet. Hopefully one day I will soon, and that would be a show that was on CW, The 100. I think the premise of the show changed throughout the years, but I think the first 5 seasons of The 100 were really well done. Really good show. It had Everdropoulos, and I'm trying to remember the character's name, Octavia. Octavia was awesome. You had, I can't remember all the, Clark. She was okay. Bellamy was good. Jasper is awesome. I'm trying to remember the characters' names, and I'm kind of falling flat on that. But anyway, the premise of the show was everybody lived on this spaceship because Earth was like polluted or something like that. And then they end up has sending these kids down to Earth, basically as like test subjects. Like, okay, we're gonna send them down there. If they live, they live. Great. If they die, whatever. They're just kids. We don't care about them. But they are able to breathe on Earth, and then you have these people on Earth that are called the Grounders, if I remember correctly. And it just kind of, it's kind of different. You know, like I said, the story starts and then ends in a completely different place. But those first 5 seasons of the show were good. I don't know what I think about the ending of the show. I thought they could have done much better. The final seasons I didn't necessarily like, but they had some good moments in them. But I really liked a lot of the characters on the 100, despite my lack of memory for the characters' names right now. I remember Octavia, Jasper, what was Monty? Monty's who I was trying to think of. But it had some great moments on that show. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I would strongly recommend it because it's actually a really good show. And that's why the 100 comes in as my number 16. My number 15 is kind of a show that not a lot of people know about. I heard of it before, but it took me probably 5 years to watch it. It's a show that was on FX. It's called The Strain. Start of the show is there's a plane that's on tarmac and nobody's getting off the plane. All the windows are closed and they're like, what the fuck is going on with this plane? So they send people from the CDC in the plane and everybody's dead. Everybody's dead. Like, there's no question about it that they're dead. And then random people, just a couple of them, actually are alive. Like, they wake up. Like, they were dead. Not moving, no heartbeat. They were dead and then they were alive. And basically there's this kind of like this vampire virus thing that's being passed through these worms. Some of it's a little far-fetched, but I like the show. I think from beginning, the premiere of the show is one of the most solid premieres that I've ever watched of a TV show. It had me very intrigued. Some people would complain about the character names because they're weird names because it's based off of a book. Like, the main character is Efren Goodweather. You have like the secondary character who like knows everything about what's going on. His name is Abraham Satrakian. And you have this master fellow, which is like the Dracula out there who can change to different people depending on how weak he gets. And I really like the show. It was a really good show. And I've watched like the first season a couple times. And then the rest of it I've only watched one time. But I did like it. Now, there is a recast after the first season that I don't like. It doesn't really spoil anything of the show. The main character's son gets recasted, and I really liked him in the first season and hated him for the rest of the show because they made him too different. But The Strain was great. It had a great beginning, and then the finale of the show was very solid, unlike a show like True Blood, where they didn't know what the fuck they were doing for True Blood's finale. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I would check out The Strain. It's on Amazon and probably Hulu. It's certainly worth a watch. It's an only 4-season show too, so you can get through it pretty quickly. So that's why The Strain is my number 15. My number 14 is a show that I watched through the end of 2020 into the beginning of 2021 when I was able to watch new episodes. It has 12 seasons, and admittedly the first 5 or so were really good. 6 and 7 were okay. 9 and 10 were 9, or 8 and 9 were yeah. And then 10 and 11 and 12 were. Wait, does it have 11 seasons or 12 seasons? Now I don't remember. Maybe it's 11 seasons. I think it might be 11 seasons. But I'm talking about Shameless. Shameless had really good moments. Well, first of all, they had a lot of nudity, which is always a plus. Like, that's the first thing I talk about is nudity. But they had great characters with William H. Macy's character, Frank Gallagher, and you had Lip's character, his oldest son, and you have Fiona, played by Emmy Rossum, who is just awesome in the show. There's just so much stuff I could talk good about the show. The relationship between Ian and Mickey. You have Carl's transformation. Of course, the shenanigans of Lip and Fiona. You have... I'm trying to remember everything about the show now, and I'm all over the place. Liam, who towards the end gets really good. And you have the neighbor... Oh, I forgot the neighbors. V and Kevin are awesome. And I really like the show. Now, like I said, towards the end, it's not very good. And then they have a finale that left us with more questions, and we didn't get any answers. Like, it's not a conclusion, in my opinion. It seemed like a season finale versus a series finale. But Shameless is certainly worth a watch. Even the bad seasons are okay if you want to watch a show with a lot of drama, a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, so to speak. But I really like Shameless. I'm glad I was able to watch it, and that's why it's my number 14. However, that has moved down the list because of the final season. My number 13 is a show that was on FX, and it's like the first big show that touched all these areas of controversial issues on a show. Maybe a little bit ahead of its time. I'm talking about The Shield. The show stars Michael Chiklis as Vic Mackey, who's a cop that he does a lot of bad shit and some good shit, and he's really good at compartmentalizing. Like, bad shit that happens, he just kind of puts over here and forgets about it. And they have these kind of crooked cops that are vigilantes, so to speak. And it's a great show. They have great characters on it, like Forrest Whitaker's on it for a season-ish. I can't remember the exact, so he might be on it for a season and a couple episodes into the next season. My only problem with the show is I didn't rewatch it. It has a great beginning, and it has a great end. There's really no bad things about The Shield. I haven't rewatched it yet. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I started rewatching it for about 3 episodes, and I even put a couple of reviews on this channel, and then just kind of went, it's time to move on to something else. So, it's a great show. If you like good performances, like Bryan Cranston's performance as Walter White in Breaking Bad, while it's a different show, The Shield, Vic Mackey, or Michael Chiklis' performance as Vic Mackey was unbelievable, and that's why I put The Shield as my number 13. That used to be in the top 10, but did move down a little bit. Number 12 is a Netflix exclusive show that I do like. It's a lot of fun. It has some Dexter vibes, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You right now, as Joel Goldberg gets obsessed with people and then kills them sometimes. Now, the first season, in my opinion, was super solid. I really liked the first season with his obsession and what he did with Guinevere Beck. And I'm still skeptical. Wait, I don't want to talk about that. That would be a spoiler. The second season, I didn't like as much, but I only watched it one time. And I really liked the third season. The standout characters in the third season were the couple. I can't remember their name. They were, well, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's just say it was the guy that was in Friday the 13th reboot. Travis Van Winkle, I think, is his real name. He played Trent in the Friday the 13th remake, or reboot, whatever you want to call it. And the other chick that he's with, it's his girlfriend. They are the season stealers. They steal the show in the third season, at least when they're on it. They were really good, and I really liked the third season of You. And it actually jumped up quite a bit on my ranking, because it used to be near 20, and now I've got it number 12. It's a fun show. It has some Dexter vibes, but I think Dexter would beat the shit out of Joe Goldberg. Just my opinion. More about Dexter later. So that's why You is my number 12. So I made a change to my list because I just watched the show's newest season. So Cobra Kai is my number 11, and Cobra Kai was in my top 10, but I'll talk about that more later. But Cobra Kai is awesome. I'm a fan of the Karate Kid movies with Ralph Macchio, and to continue that story with Johnny Lawrence as kind of the good guy in this, and Daniel is kind of the antagonist, at least at first, and their shenanigans towards each other, then them having to work together at times, but then when they work together, they become friends, and then right away they become enemies again because something went wrong or something like that. But it's an awesome show. They have a great cast of young characters, such as Hawk, such as Tori, who I really like that most people don't like, and then you've of course have Miguel and Daniel's daughter Samantha. They're good. Robbie, who is Johnny Lawrence's son, I sense he'll be better in the next season coming out. I think it's September on Netflix. But I really enjoy Cobra Kai for all the nostalgic feelings, watching that show, seeing who's going to show up next, such as Kreese, such as Terry Silver, and all the random people chosen that can show up on the show. And it's a really fun show. And the episodes are only about a half an hour long, so it's easy to watch. You don't have to devote so much time into it, but it's fucking addicting. So Cobra Kai, as it stands right now, is my number 11, but that could go up when the new season comes out. I should say. And my number 10, the show that just jumped up about 4 spots, just watched the newest half season of the show, and I'm talking about Stranger Things. Stranger Things is awesome. It's a really fun show on Netflix. I think it's an 80s vibe, obviously. I love the theme of the show. And it's just, all the kid actors are great. You have Hopper, played by David Harbour. You have Winona Ryder on the show. She's great. I mean, she shouldn't really be the focus, even though she's the first person listed in the cast. It's the kids that steal the show. And I absolutely love some of the newer characters on the show. Like Robin, I absolutely fell in love with Robin right away when she showed up in season 3. And the transformation of some of the characters from like Steve from season 1 to where he is now, he is awesome. I can't really say much more about the show because I don't want to give anything away, but the show is, at this point in my opinion, a must-watch show, and I'm really looking forward to July when part 2 of season 4 comes out. So Stranger Things is my number 10. So my number 9 is a show that I just started watching this year, and I've already caught up to the newest episodes of the show, and this is the Breaking Bad prequel, Better Call Saul. Now, I didn't think I would really like this show, because I wasn't that big of a fan of Saul Goodman on Breaking Bad. However, there's so many other characters on Breaking Bad that Saul kind of has to take a back seat to those characters, such as, Mike, Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, Gustavo Fring, Skylar White, Marie. There's a lot of awesome... Well, I'm not saying Marie is a good character over Saul Goodman. But in Better Call Saul, Saul is the main character, but you also have Mike and Gustavo Fring before the events of Breaking Bad, showing us what happened, how this led to this. Instead of doing like a 1 or 2 season thing, they really stretched this out and told a good story. We get introduced to a love interest of Saul's that we never knew about, Kim Wexler, who is awesome. I absolutely adore Kim Wexler. And then, of course, we find out more about the Salamancas. We get Hector Salamanca, the twins from Breaking Bad. Hector, of course, the guy that dings the bell in the wheelchair. But he doesn't start out in the wheelchair in this. We find out what happens to him to get into the wheelchair, but we have the twins. We also see Tuco Salamanca for a short time. We're introduced to kind of a member of that clan, but not blood-related, Nacho Vargas, I should say, not Varga. And we get more from Mike Ehrmantraut. We get a lot from Gustavo Fring, or Gus Fring, and, of course, Saul Goodman. There's also a lot of other people that show up, and eventually you're going to get a Walter White and Jesse Pinkman on Better Call Saul. They've already talked about it. How that's going to be, what they're going to show us, I don't know. But I'm really excited for the final episodes of Better Call Saul, which will happen in July. So that's why Better Call Saul is my number 9. My number 8 is my favorite sitcom of all time. This show is absolutely hilarious. And I'm talking about The Big Bang Theory. Now, truth be told, the reason why I started watching The Big Bang Theory was because I saw Penny on screen and she looked really good. I'm like, ooh, who is that blonde on this show? And because of that, I started watching The Big Bang Theory. But some of the episodes of most of the episodes of this show are hilarious. The character of Sheldon Cooper is one of the most brilliant characters I've ever seen in the TV show. He is so hilarious, and some of the stuff he does and says just cracks me up. The show is definitely rewatchable, although it's got a lot of seasons, 12 seasons that you have to watch through. And so it's time consuming, and I'm rewatching it right now, obviously, for the channel. And not many people are watching those reviews, but you know what? I'm going to keep doing them because I'm already, into season 3, the middle of season 3, and I'm enjoying it. It gives me something to do besides talk about favorite TV shows and movies all the time. But Big Bang Theory is definitely good. Now, I think the earlier seasons were probably a lot better than the later seasons. I liked season 10. I'm not sure I liked season 8. I did not like. 9 was okay. 11 I didn't like, and 12 was okay. But the first 3 seasons so far have been really good, with some of my favorite episodes of the show. And I can't say enough good things about the characters of Leonard and Sheldon and Penny. They're awesome. Howard and Raj are okay. Bernadette, she's all right, and then eventually I'll get introduced again to Amy Farrah. So those are just some of the reasons why The Big Bang Theory is my number 8. Now my number 7 is a show that's on HBO Max. It's Banshee. And this show was actually recommended to me by Cody Leach, and it did not disappoint. Now the premise of Banshee, you have a guy that was in jail for 15 years. Now when he gets out of jail, he wants to find his accomplice, his girlfriend, so he goes to a small town of Banshee, Pennsylvania to locate her. She's changed her name, but he has a hacker friend that can locate people. So upon going to this town, he goes into the bar, and the soon-to-be sheriff is there, but nobody knows who he is because they wanted to hire somebody from out of town because there's too much corruption in Banshee, Pennsylvania. Everybody gets corrupted by this town guy that takes over things named Proctor. But this sheriff, Lucas Hood, is in this bar, and these 2 crooks come in, and they cause some disturbance. Well, anyway, this new sheriff, soon-to-be sheriff, dies in this bar, and this guy that was in jail for all this time, he takes care of the two henchmen, the 2 guys, and then he actually takes Lucas Hood's identity, and he becomes the new sheriff of Banshee, Pennsylvania. Like, nobody had met him yet, so he can just become this, and then his hacker friend can help out with like a new driver's license, a new birth certificate, and all that to make all the documents match up. So that's the premise of the show. So he's the sheriff, and it's just really interesting. The show has a lot of action, a lot of great sex scenes, but a lot of good choreographed action. It starts good, it ends good. It's only got 4 seasons, and I think they're 4 solid seasons, so give it a watch on HBO Max if you have the chance, because you won't regret it one bit. My number 6 is a show that just had its final episode. It's a Netflix show. It's Ozark. And Ozark is really awesome. Now, the finale of Ozark, I'm not super thrilled about. I don't hate it, but I feel like it's kind of like, really? That's what you're going to do? Like, this was kind of a cop-out. But Ozark was awesome. Now, the premise is that this guy is killing all these members of this money laundering thing, and you get to Jason Bateman's character, who starts freaking out, and he goes over this thing that his partner, who just got murdered by this guy, of how they can money launder through this town in the Ozarks and get all this extra money for this guy and make him millions. Well, this drug lord guy decides to go with that plan and makes Jason Bateman's character, Marty Bird, and his family go to Ozark. Well, he doesn't make his family. He has to take his family because they're not just going to live in Chicago and the Ozarks. And it's pretty good, pretty solid. There's a lot of moments that kind of catch you by surprise there where you're expecting something possibly, but the moment it happens, you're not expecting when it's going to happen. But I really like the show. It was fun. I felt like it could go a few more seasons, but they obviously felt different. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point down the road this show does come back, because that, as it stands right now, Ozark is 4 seasons, and I think they're 4 solid seasons, and that's why it's my number 6. Now, number 5 through number 2 are somewhat interchangeable. Like, they have flip-flopped numerous times, and they could flip-flop again. But my number 5 is Lost. Now, there are some people that absolutely hate Lost. Maybe they liked it at one point, and they hate it now. There are people that don't understand what happened. I'm referring to the finale of the series. If that's the case, there's a reason why they hate it. They didn't get what happened. I didn't necessarily get it at first when I watched it too, but when I rewatched it, I understood everything. There's a very specific lines of dialogue by a character that explains what happened. But anyway, the premise of the show is this plane crashes on this island, and you have all these survivors. Matthew Fox is in it, Evangeline Lilly's in it, just to name a few, and they have to live on this island, and they don't get rescued right away. And it's just an awesome show. It's got a lot of, like, you know, random people showing up that were dead that you like, why are they alive now? And you've got these cliffhanger finales that are really good and awesome characters. Some of these characters on this show are incredible. Like, every character is a favorite character on this show. There's no real bad performances. Well, there's a couple, but for the most part, all the development of characters and all the performances by the characters are exceptional. And that's why I really like Lost. And I really like the ending of Lost. It's one of my favorite finales of all time. So if somebody says the ending sucks, well, then they didn't get it. If they still got it and just didn't like it, well, I mean, not everybody likes everything, but I absolutely love Lost. And at the moment, it's my number 5. The last time I did this list, it was my number 2. But like I said, 2, 3, 4, and 5 kind of could flip-flop depending on the day. But that's where Lost is right now. My number 4 is one of the most epic TV shows of all time. Another show that kind of feels or falls flat in the finale, but it had some solid seasons, and even this last season was awesome. I'm talking about HBO's Game of Thrones. First of all, the theme, awesome. I listen to that every time. I don't skip the intro. I love listening to that intro, but what a show of characters. Just the craziness on that show and the deaths on that show. And then, of course, my favorite episode of a TV series of all time, Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 3, The Long Night. That is awesome. It's got some awesome moments, some memorable moments on this show. And while the ending of the series might not be the best, I don't absolutely hate it like I do with, let's say, True Blood and Shameless. I did like, for the most part, what happened on Game of Thrones. And I don't want to talk anything else about it because then I'll spoil stuff. But Game of Thrones currently is my number 4, and that was number 5 the last time I did this. But I rewatched Game of Thrones so many times, and that's why I had to move it up one spot. My number 3 could easily be my number 2. And right now, though, it's my number 3. It's one of AMC's best shows of all time. I talked about Better Call Saul before, but I haven't mentioned Breaking Bad because Breaking Bad is my number 3. What a great performance by Bryan Cranston as Walter White. Aaron Paul as Jesse Pinkman, solid. You've got their, Walter White's brother-in-law, DEA agent, Hank Schrader, great. His annoying wife, Marie. You've got Walter White's annoying wife, Skylar. Annoying wife, I think I said life. Annoying wife, Skylar White. Their annoying son, Walter Jr., that goes by Flint sometimes. You've got Hank Schrader's DEA partner, Steve Gomez. Just a bunch of awesome characters. You get introduced to other characters throughout the series, such as Saul Goodman, Mike Ehrmantraut, and Gustavo Fring, and the show is awesome. Like, this is such a good show, a great, well-written show. The finale, I think, is brilliant, one of the best finales of all time. You even have the spin-off movie, El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, which was a lot slower, but I still enjoyed it. I can't say enough good things about Breaking Bad. You have that overqualified high school chemistry teacher that gets cancer and decides to start cooking meth to provide for his family. If you haven't seen Breaking Bad yet, what the hell are you waiting for? So Breaking Bad, as it stands right now, is my number 3, but it's a show that I watch all the time. I've rewatched the show probably 12 times now. I love it. Breaking Bad did not make it to number 2. It has never made my number 2 yet, but the show that currently is my number 2, which before it was my number 4, but was my number 2 before then. Lost was my last number 2, but I've switched things around because I rewatched Lost the last time I did a list like this. But my number 2 currently is Dexter. also including Dexter New Blood. I absolutely love Dexter. You have this forensic analyst, this blood splatter analyst that's a blood splatter analyst during the day, but a serial killer at night. But he only kills people that meet his code that his stepfather had taught him, that they have to be murderers themselves. They had to have got away from the system but been a murderer, and he kills bad people essentially. So he's kind of a vigilante, and it's just awesome. Now, a lot of the guest stars in this show are great. Some of the other characters are great, such as Dokes and Hannah, and well, you have Deb, who I don't really like that much, but everybody else seems to like her. But it's such a great show, which I'm rewatching again for like the Dexter and Breaking Bad. I rewatch those shows at least every other year. I swear, I started watching Dexter in 2014, and I think I've rewatched it every year but once since then. I absolutely love Dexter. It's a great show. The new series, Dexter New Blood, was good too. I love it. I love the character of Dexter. It's one of the best of all time, and that's why Dexter, can't say enough good things about it, is my number 2. And as many of you know, the number 1 TV show for J-Dev is obviously my favorite show of all time, a show that kind of changed my life, and that would be The Walking Dead. Maybe The Walking Dead isn't as good as far as how written it is as Breaking Bad and Dexter, but The Walking Dead has had some phenomenal moments on the show. It's a show that made me addicted to the show. Just so many good characters on the show and bad characters on the show, but I just really liked this show. It's a show that made me kind of do YouTube. One of the reasons why I created this YouTube channel is I wanted to talk about The Walking Dead, because I didn't have enough people that I knew that really liked the show that I hung out with. There are a few people, but that's it. I wanted to consistently talk about The Walking Dead. Now, it wasn't the first project I did on the show, but that's one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel, because of The Walking Dead. I love this show. I've rewatched the show at least 7 times. Some episodes I've rewatched 20 times. It's too much, but The Walking Dead is awesome. And of course, we get the introduction of the character Negan at the end of season 6. One of the best characters of all time in any TV series, Mr. Negan right there. And he's awesome. The Walking Dead is awesome. Now they're about to have their final episode coming up in the fall. The show, the original show isn't continuing, but the characters are moving to other shows that will continue the original story. But The Walking Dead has had some solid seasons, and I'm looking forward to The Walking Dead having one of the best finales of all time. Fingers crossed. That's why The Walking Dead is my number 1 favorite show of all time. And again, I'm not talking a lot about it because I don't want to talk about spoilers. So let's recap this ranking just so you know what I said in case you skipped one by accident, because I have been talking a while. The Sinner, my number 25. 24, The Blacklist. 23, Beverly Hills 90210. 22, Homeland. 21, Limitless. 20, True Blood. 19, Orphan Black. 18, Saved by the Bell. 17, Melrose Place. 16, The 100. 15, The Strain. 14, Shameless. 13, The Shield. 12, You. 11, Cobra Kai. 10, Stranger Things. 9, Better Call Saul. 8, Big Bang Theory. 7, Banshee. 6, Ozark. 5, Lost. 4, Game of Thrones. 3, Breaking Bad. 2, Dexter. And number 1, The Walking Dead. So like I said before, if you have a ranking of your own, make sure you leave it in the comment section. If you have a recommendation based off of what I've talked about so far that you really think I'd like, you certainly can leave that in the comment section. There's a couple shows like Sons of Anarchy. I watched the first episode. I don't know if I'll ever revisit that. I should. A show like Lucifer that I've watched probably 5 or 6 episodes. I just haven't had enough time to watch more to be hooked into it. That's a show that I'm currently watching, although it's been a couple weeks since I've watched an episode because Better Call Saul kind of took away that time. But make sure you leave your recommendations in the comment section. Don't forget to smash that like button. Sound off about what you think about this list. Like, wow, you have Beverly Hills 90210. Yeah, I know. Melrose Place. Yep. I love them. And of course, Last but certainly not least, like I said before, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.